The Ghost Vale of Albion Falls. In the autumn of 1891, the town of Hamilton, Ontario was wrapped in the chill of the oncoming winter, its streets cloaked in the shadowy fog that drifted down from Albion Falls. Smoke from the mills clung to the valley, mingling with the mist that rolled down from the waterfalls. The townsfolk called it the Ghost Vale for the way it clung to the skin and filled the air with a haunted feeling. Everyone knew that Albion Falls was a beautiful yet treacherous place, a haunting backdrop for both lovers and wanderers. But few knew of the sorrow that would come to stain its waters forever, a tale of heartbreak and betrayal that left an indelible mark on the land. The story began with Lily McCrae, a young seamstress from the lower quarters of Hamilton. She was a girl of small means, orphaned as a child, who worked tirelessly at the sewing house in town, stitching dresses and hemming trousers to scrape by. Her life was a ceaseless rhythm of needlework and labour, her hands calloused, her fingers pricked 100 times over. But even in her bleak routine life, Lily carried a flicker of hope, a dream that she clung to in the quiet hours. That dream had a name: Andrew Fitzgerald. Andrew Fitzgerald was the son of a wealthy local merchant, a figure known for his easy charm and dark, handsome features. Though born into privilege, Andrew was a restless soul, drawn to the underbelly of Hamilton with a strange fascination. He would wander into the poorer quarters of town, claiming a taste for real life and all its mysteries. His visits often drew whispers and side glances. He was the type of man who belonged in grand parlours, not back alleys and dim-lit taverns. But to Lily, Andrew was nothing short of a miracle, a man who saw her, really saw her, amidst the drudgery of her life. Their romance blossomed in secret, hidden in the shadowed corners of Hamilton's winding streets. By day, Andrew was the town's dashing young gentleman, but by night he was her lover, slipping into her world like a spectre, leaving only the whisper of promises. He told her stories of distant cities, of lives they could build together far from the prying eyes of his family and their suffocating expectations. Lily, hungry for affection and the escape Andrew promised, believed every word. But as the weeks turned to months, whispers began to circulate. Lily's friends warned her. Even her landlady, a woman hardened by the years, cautioned her against trusting such a man.
"He's a Fitzgerald,"
the old woman said with a knowing look.
"They don't mix with the likes of us."
But Lily dismissed the warnings. Love had a hold on her, one that tightened with every meeting, every whispered vow. Then one November evening, Andrew arrived with a plan that made her heart leap. He promised that he would meet her at Albion Falls at midnight the next night. They would run away together, he said, escaping the confines of his family's wealth and status, forging a life of freedom. She was to bring only what she needed. He'd take care of everything else. Lily could hardly sleep that night, her head filled with visions of their life together. A cottage, perhaps, where she could sew dresses and care for a garden, and he could finally be the man he had always wanted to be. The next night, as the fog rolled in thicker than usual, Lily made her way to the falls. The journey was long, and the cold seeped into her bones, but her heart was a furnace of excitement, her mind filled with the thought of Andrew waiting for her at the misty edge of Albion Falls. She stood there for hours, the damp chill wrapping around her, as the waterfall thundered in the darkness. Midnight passed, then the early hours of the morning, and still there was no sign of him. Her heart sank as the truth dawned on her. He wasn't coming. She was nothing more than a secret, a dalliance to him, a passing thrill that would be discarded with the rest of his vices. Overcome by betrayal, Lily's heartache turned to despair, and in a moment of darkness she climbed the rocks, gazing down at the churning waters below. She let out a single, anguished scream, a sound swallowed by the roar of the falls, before letting herself fall into the cold, merciless water. Her body was found days later, battered and broken, washed up on the riverbank. But this was not the end of Lily McCrae. Days after her burial, rumours began to spread in Hamilton. It started with whispers from the workers who travelled near Albion Falls at night. Some claimed to see a shadowy figure in a white dress, her hair tangled and her face obscured by mist. Others spoke of hearing a low, mournful wail on the wind, a sound that sent chills down their spines and forced them to look over their shoulders. And then there were the young men, handsome, charming men like Andrew, who felt a strange compulsion to visit the falls late at night. They reported seeing her, standing at the top of the falls, her arms outstretched as if inviting them forward. One by one, they described the same thing. A figure of a woman with empty, sorrowful eyes, her dress damp and clinging to her like a shroud. They felt drawn to her, an inexplicable pull, a silent plea. Some even claimed she reached out to them, a ghostly hand reaching from the veil of water. Those who dared to step closer spoke of a chill that wrapped around them, sinking deep into their bones, as if the falls themselves were freezing over. As the sightings grew, the townsfolk became wary, especially those who resembled Andrew Fitzgerald. The ghostly woman was said to seek retribution, her spirit restless and vengeful, her broken heart bound to the place of her death. Some believed she would not rest until she found her lost love, that she wandered the falls searching for Andrew, ready to pull him into the depths of the river to suffer as she had. The falls gained a reputation for misfortune, a cursed place where lovers dared not tread. Andrew himself, haunted by guilt, avoided the falls at all costs. But he could not evade her forever. One bitterly cold night, nearly a year after her death, he found himself wandering toward Albion Falls, drawn by an unknown force, a whisper on the wind calling his name. It wasn't long before he saw her. She stood in the mist, her pale figure faint yet unmistakable, her eyes locked onto his with an intensity that froze him in place. Her face was both familiar and strange, twisted by sorrow and betrayal. Some say he fled that night, a shell of his former self, never again the same. Others insist he was seen standing at the edge, entranced by her ghostly figure, until he disappeared into the mist, leaving behind nothing but the echoes of her mournful cries. The town found no trace of him after that night, and though some believed he left in shame, there were those who whispered that the falls had claimed him, that Lily's ghost had finally taken her revenge. To this day, on mist-shrouded nights, locals claim to see her figure standing by the edge of Albion Falls. She is waiting, they say, watching for the man who betrayed her. And any who linger too long, especially the young men, feel her cold presence, a pull that grows stronger, leading them ever closer to the edge. Lily McCrae remains, bound to Albion Falls, forever seeking her lost love, or perhaps just peace.